Welcome back to CFB Nation. I'm your host, Nino Brown, and I got my guy, you already know who it is, my guy, D now, Mr. AKA Get It Done. And when you see us on the screen, you already know the drill. It's Devy. But before we get into it, my man, how we doing?
Not too bad. Just watched an exciting game, Irish with the victory. So my pick is still alive.
Yeah, I was going back and forth through the game. I knew you would be excited with that. It was a good game. It's
It
probably
was,
the
yeah, it was.
like to announce this is probably one of the better overall teams that the Irish have had in a long time. I'm still not drinking the Kool-Aid. It's not hate. I'm not a Marcus Streamers guy, and I'm not really a Riley Leonard guy. But they're making it work. So kudos to them. That defense is something
Oh,
else.
it's elite. Yeah.
Yeah, that defense is locked down. But all right, let's get into this. This talk about diamonds in the rough. And we always talk about like scout the player, don't scout the helmet. I mean, you say Wyoming, we're talking the only guy pretty much anybody's talking about is Harrison Wiley. Coming out of there, and he didn't really play much this year due to injury. This gentleman didn't play too much, but there were times when they called his number and his name and they needed him, and he showed up to play. It's going to be with Wyoming wide receiver Chris Durr Jr., 5'10", 171 pounds. He's a former three-star, right? Coming out of high school, he was a pure athlete. So he was, 190th ranked athlete in the class out of Morgan Park High School, Chicago, Illinois. We know how they don't get enough credit. Those Chicago boys.
It's some good football.
Absolutely. They talk about getting out the mud. Them boys getting out the mud out in Chicago as well. He was the top 50 recruit, in Illinois. Played, top high school football 5A in Chicago. First team All State, first team All Public, first team All City. And in his senior year, he went 10-2. Do you know? Tell me a little about his time over at Morgan Park High School.
Yeah. So Morgan Park High School, his junior year, he had 51 receptions, just over 1,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. Senior year, ramped it up. He had 68 receptions, 1,130 yards, 13 touchdowns, and he averaged 94.2 yards per game.
Close to 100 yards a game. Seems as though he was the guy for them. Slot guy, right? Speedy dude. Kind of get right into it. What I seen, some of the things I seen that just popped off the tape. Shifty, right? I mentioned athlete, just knows how to get open. Like this guy is a field general. He's an open field killer. You get this guy out in movement, out in space. Good luck. Got that top end gear. Like he gets behind you, you're just staring at 15, and his letters on his name, back of his jersey for the whole time. Absolute playmaker, has good body control. Dude, their quarterback for Wyoming, and I don't want to disrespect anybody, okay? But he was nothing short of average at best. The first game of the year, he threw six attempts. 3 of them were interceptions. The Arizona State made this guy have nightmares, and it was bad for the first half of the year. Durr somehow survived, even with the backup there. This kid played well. Like I said, he made up for the off-target throws. He's got good body control, good range, good hands. The contested catch guy has no problem going up there and getting it. And he's a special teams guy, right? Always aware of the boundary. Eyes always open, field general. Talk to me about some offers that he got, because I feel like he got disrespected.
Yeah, looking at this list, after you watch some of his tape, you're surprised that the offers he got. So he got 11 total offers. Excuse me. He got offers from Wyoming, Army, Eastern Michigan, Penn, Louisville, New Mexico State, just to name a few. Ended up going to Wyoming. But like you said, watching his tape, you feel like he should have got way more offers from some of the bigger schools.
Especially when coming out as active.
Mhm.
There's some schools that could have found a way to get this guy, whether it was being in the backfield or just getting him on the field with special teams. Got that speed. It's kind of, he only needs a little bit of room, and this kid can create extra space. Like I said, freshman year, he's a true freshman. His first 12 games, he had 45 targets, 31 receptions, 340 yards, a touchdown. He worked out a slot primarily, almost 90%. Out of the 380, half of that was yards after contact. 4 for 6 in contested catch opportunities. 8.1 A dot. So like It wasn't like you were just getting at the line of scrimmage and going. He was able to do that. He was also able to get the ball downfield. He kind of did a little bit of everything for them. He had a lot of injuries. Sargent got hurt at one point in that wide receiver room. Like I said, Wiley was hurt, so they kind of didn't really respect the run game heavily. The quarterback was doing a lot of running because the line was letting everybody through. It was kind of ugly, and this kid kind of through it all. Didn't have these many wild games, but he had a couple games. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so the first one was against Arizona State, like you said. It was pretty rough game. But he ended up to come away. He had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 16 yards, and a touchdown. But then his really big game was Week 9 against Utah State, where he had 10 targets, 9 receptions for 83 yards. So you could see kind of as the season was going, how he matured and he started fitting more into the offense. So.
Yeah, Week 1 obviously was his first game. He kind of didn't really play until like the fourth quarter. I think late in the second there was an injury. I don't know if that was someone else, but they got injured. Sargent, got injured and kind of didn't come back. They were getting blown out 42-0. It was late in the fourth quarter. They said, all right, let's get this kid in there. And he got in there in the fourth quarter, and they started targeting him. And he ended up scoring the touchdown on a nice little out route to the sideline. I think it was in the intro as well. So he has the skills. He has the playmaking ability. Talk to me about the room. I think there's going to be opportunity in 2025.
Yeah, so before I get into that, he did actually lead Wyoming in receiving in 2 games. So that right there, including this Utah State one, shows that as a freshman, he could be the number 1 guy, which is exciting to see.
And the last game of the year against Washington State, he was the main target receiver for that team. So, like, it seems as though signs are pointing in his direction.
Right. Yeah. So Wyoming's wide receiver room, like you said, they got Jalen Sargent, who's a junior. He had 23 receptions, 480 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyler King, sophomore, 17 receptions, 236 yards. I'm going to mess this up, so I apologize. Will Pellissier.
I think you got it.
Okay, kudos. Senior, 14 receptions, 212 yards. Devin Body Jr., senior, 5 receptions, 62 yards, touchdown. Justin Stevenson, who just entered the portal, 17 receptions, 204 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then their tight end, John Michael Gillenberg, 30 receptions, 425 yards, 3 touchdowns. But then they do have Dion DeBlanc, an incoming 3-star out of North Shore, Texas. So
you see that there's competition in the freshman room left. Kind of a sign to me that seems as though he's the new young kid, right? When you talk about King, I watched a few games, and you can't really find highlights on so you got to watch games, dude. I watched the whole Utah game. I watched the whole Arizona. This Tyler King kid, he's kind of like a scat back guy. He lines up everywhere. They got him in the backfield. He's in the slot. He's outside. He's close to the line. He's everywhere, so he's going to be like a gadget type guy. I think Durr can own the slot role in 2025. I think this kid can go walk away. Quarterback depending here, what the situation is going to be. Maybe 65 targets, and lead this room outside of the tight end. I think a tight end is going to be the guy because of the scheme and how they run it. They have a mobile quarterback. They like to just kind of chip and roll out. Tight ends seem to be the beneficiary of that type of offense. Running backs can eat. Harrison Wiley's eating. These wide receivers that play close to the line, they also can eat in that type of offense. I think this kid's getting ready for a breakout in 2025. It's that point of the show. I'm gonna let you go first on the player comps. I threw out an old dog here. I want to see what your take is on it, but give me 2 guys that you like that he kind of resembles.
Yeah, so I'm gonna preface this. Durr is a little slighter than the guys that I picked. My guys are a little thicker, but they were slot heavy wide receivers during their time. First one, I got Mike Wallace out of Ole Miss. I ended up notably for the Steelers, Ravens for a little bit. Had 101 yards, almost 2,000 yards, or 101 receptions, 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. Also ran a little bit. Was a 3rd round pick in 2009. And then my ceiling
Checks
is
all the boxes.
yeah, is Jarvis Landry. Watching him, watching Durr play, elite hands, body control. We saw all those crazy warm-ups that he was doing pregame. Landry played in the slot most of his career. Also started at LSU as a special teams guy before him and OBJ kind of broke out. 130 plus receptions, almost 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. Was a second round draft pick. But out of the two, I think perfect world, Jarvis Landry would be the ideal comp.
I love the Jarvis Landry comp. He went to a shitty team off the rip in Cleveland. Kind of.
No, he's with Miami first.
Well, Miami, then Cleveland, and then he ended
Cleveland.
up.
Yeah,
But he ended up somewhere else after that, right? Was it Saints, maybe? Or they brought him
Saints
into
or
like
Falcons.
somewhere. He went on those.
Yeah,
Just injuries hit, and then like when he was healthy, it just the situations didn't work out. But
yeah,
that guy right now, man, looks like he could play in the NFL. I watched some of his videos, and he's just training like he looks good.
I know he's trying for a comeback.
Yeah, he was looking for a team that was gonna, they needed a vet for like a playoff push. But I don't know if he ever got that call. But I love the game. I love the style of play that he brings. I kind of got a guy similar to that. My guys are a little smaller, kind of right around his size. And one guy maybe could be a trickster. He was kind of a trickster his junior year in college, but I mean, in the NFL, I think his game would translate to kind of Durr's game, and that would be Randall Cobb, out of Kentucky. His junior year before he went to the NFL, 2010, 84 receptions, 1,017 yards, 7 touchdowns. He also had like 60 attempts out of the backfield, 424 yards and 4 touchdowns. He ended up being a second-round pick in 2011. But in the NFL, he didn't really rush the ball. I mean, here and there, maybe, you know what I mean? But he was more that slot guy, could get in the open field, get work between, the hashes, be that guy to sit down in space for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, years of Rodgers just feeding this guy. Chris Durr, I think, could be that type of player for Wyoming for the next 2-3 years. Maybe he stays, maybe he doesn't. But I think his game could translate to a Randall Cobb style. And then another guy that's more recent, who I think hasn't really hit his ceiling. Say, I think maybe in a year or two, you might see a little more production out of this guy. Would be Buffalo Bills wide receiver, former Boise State wide receiver Khalil Shakur. 208 receptions, almost 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns in 3 years at Boise State. He was a 5th-round pick in 2022. But, man, I think because his size kind of dropped him down a little bit, also playing out in the Mountain West. Boise might have dropped him down a little bit as well. But man, you see him. I watch him multiple. Every time he plays the Patriots, he burns us. Every single time I watch him. And this year alone, they let Gabe Davis go. They let some other pieces go, knowing that they had Shakir to come in there and play that slot kind of guy, like anywhere on the field. And he excelled this year. And I can see his game and Chris Durr's game kind of being mirror images to each other. So what are your thoughts on my two guys? And we'll close this out.
Yeah, I like your picks because it shows the next step. Like Shakur is what he could be.
Right.
Like that's the next step of his game. And then Cobb or even Landry is the ideal role. I agree with you 100%. I honestly may like your Shakur comps more than my two comps, just because frame-wise and that natural maturity of his next game or the next step of his game, I think kind of fits in. I'm going to throw out another one that is kind of slight of frame that may fit, that I think should have stayed more as a slot, but the team moved him more to the outside. I'm going to say Tyler Lockett with the Seahawks.
Yeah, coming out of college, this dude was a slot general.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they moved him and let him burn. Yeah. Well, he excelled, which is crazy because you don't see a lot of guys stay on the outside, and then after like 6 to 8 years of being there, they move in. Like Adam Thielen, right? Was on the outside, came into the slot, was able to extend his career in 4 or 5 years between 2 different teams. You see that a lot. It's not, you don't usually work the middle, and then go to the outside. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of crazy, but yeah, I like Tyler Lockett as well. Another guy that was, just in between the 20 and the hash, and just killed it. And then when he got to the NFL, had a different game. These guys are athletes. These guys are playmakers. They will find a way, to get. Tank Dell kind of worked out of the slot, and then everywhere else at Houston. Now the dude's doing whatever he wants, barring injuries, and hope praise the injury and the recovery from, but like he plays everywhere on the field. No matter it's Diggs, Collins, who's there, he lines up anywhere he wants. Primarily out of slot, maybe. I guess you want to say primarily if you want to go 60-40, kind of like I'm on St. Brown. He does the same thing, 60-40, kind of in the slot on the outside. But this guy can play that type of role. He's still got 3 years being in a collegiate weight room and in a program. He's probably going to.
I'd like to see him put on probably 20 more pounds.
I'd be happy with a dozen. Give me at least a dozen. I'm cool. You know
Closer
what I mean?
To 180.
Yeah, you get physical off the line. You're not going to get jammed. You know what I mean? If a linebacker has to get in that slot role and they want to pressure, I don't want the guy throwing it backside right off the rip. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think this kid has a chance. I just need to know, is it going to be Caden Anderson or are we going to get, Swoboda again? Because Swoboda was less than 48% completion. Dude had more picks than he had touchdowns. Didn't even crack 1,500 yards. I think it was like game 7, right after the Utah State game. They were like, yeah, all right, dude. We're going to bring Anderson in. Had a little bit more better luck. Like he was like 56% on the year. Had more touchdowns, better touchdown INT ratio. But I'm not saying any one of these guys is like, a 4 or 5-star prospect that we're looking at. If somehow in the portal they can scoop a guy or they end up going with Anderson and he does well in the offseason and in camp, I think they need a guy that can just kind of spread the ball around. You know what I mean? You got to have more than 50%. You got to have more than 1,500 yards on the season as a kid. He didn't even have a total of 2,000 yards combined, Swoboda. So that's rough. You're putting our guy Durr behind the 8 ball a little bit here. So I think there's a lot of potential, and that's again why we both believe he's a Devy down here at CFB Nation. Dino, we're gonna do a little switcheroo for these guys in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna, instead of doing Devy Downs, we're gonna give you Senior Bowl Downs or Senior Bowl prospects, guys that we think that are made for the Senior Bowl to literally hit this and go to the next level. Like this is the stepping stone to put the extra eyes on them, and I think they're going to excel, and you'll be seeing them on draft day. I'm Nino Brown. That's my guy, D now. This is CFB Nation, Devy Downs. We out.